before I forgetting, Valerio and Zeina, you have the control of the situation. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you for having us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends where you are in the world, to everybody. It's around past lunchtime here in the US. I know it's evening in the UK. So thank you for making the time to talk with us today about the 5 dimensions of innovation and the zones of value framework. Before we start, I want to make sure that everybody has a couple of pieces of paper and a pen or pencil next to you. This is more a workshop than an actual presentation. So we're going to introduce some of the frameworks, but we would like also to do a couple of exercises with you all. And of course, it's going to be interactive. So we would like to get your feedback, your ideas, and of course, we share the results of the exercises. All right, are we ready? Awesome, cool. So let's do some, actually, let me do a screen share first. So let me bring this up. Okay. You're checking in. Is that coming through?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So welcome to the webinar on zones of value. Let's do some quick introductions. The first one, I think, is Zeina.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Valerio. Welcome, everybody. My name is Zeina Zeitouni. I am a CPIT, which is Certified Product Innovation Trainer. I also work as a product innovation consultant in strategy and design and a business designer. So I got my career started in product a long time ago working with startups and transitioned slowly into various corporate product roles. It's where I met Valerio was during my stint at Capital One, and we worked on a lot of interesting digital experiences across our digital footprint with our physical footprint, and learned a lot of really interesting things there. So for today, now I do a lot of consulting. I am an advisor on a couple of startups as well, and really passionate about sharing a lot of the frameworks that we've developed across, along the way, and all the different, 0 to 1 product launches and services launches that I've worked on. So one of those is zones of value. So we'll be talking about that today. Thank you.
And back to me very quickly. I have been in product management for many, many years across different companies, different industries. Capital One, the last big company I worked with, where I met Zeina. Ever since I started my own company as a consulting and training company. So I am a certified Scrum trainer with the Scrum Alliance. And like Zeina, I'm a certified product innovation trainer with Spark Engine. And today we're going to present 2 frameworks that, as Zeina mentioned, they come from our own experience. We have developed these to help companies, help teams innovate, find new ideas, and better plan their products. So let's jump into that. And I would like to share with you all a little exercise. So your product team gets a request from a customer to build a coffee mug that is ready to go when you wake up in the morning. And what I would like to ask you all is to take a piece of paper and draw what comes to mind about this request. What would you do? What comes to mind here? Now, let me see if I can put this in the chat. I don't know how it shows in the Zoom window. I don't see a button to put that in the chat. You see that?
I'll put it in the chat, Valerio.
You see it? Okay. Yeah. It's probably because I'm screen sharing and oh, there you go. I found it. Okay, so the request is this. I would like for you to take a piece of paper and write and draw on the piece of paper what idea comes to mind regarding this request from the customer. And in a second, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. So what I would like for you to do is work together with other partners in the breakout room and draw on your piece of paper, share your ideas with the other people. You will have 4 minutes to do this. Zeina, were you able to put that in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's open the breakout rooms. Thank you. Okay, I figured it out. All the different windows for Zoom to have open. Thank you for the help.
I can do the next one too.
4 minutes. So let me time this.
So for those of you who are just joining, the group is in various breakout rooms working on an activity. So the activity is to write down what comes to mind if you get this request. And the request is your product team gets a request from a customer to build a coffee mug that is ready to go when you wake up in the morning. And the activity is to draw on a blank piece of paper what comes to mind when you get this request and what does it look like for you. We can probably put people in the breakout rooms as well.
Oh, you make a new one, let's see.
Sorry, I was alone in the breaking room, so I went back because.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry,
Well,
my partner in the breakout room was must be elsewhere because they weren't responding to me. They wouldn't have video on, so I wasn't able to do anything.
I put at least 3 people in every breakout room. I guess
I only got one other person, so I never got anyone else. I don't know if I.
Well, you're welcome to do it here with us. That's no problem. And there are also a few other people here in the main room.
Okay. Cool. I'm happy to do it here with people. So do you want me to share my coffee cup if anybody's there?
yeah, sure. We're here.
If you can see me. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but my husband is. So in my mind, ready to go for him is basically having proper filter coffee ready to go. So I've just drawn on like on those little filter things that you can put on your cup, and then once you boil your water, you can make that. There's obviously much better versions of that. That's as far as I've got.
So you used your husband as a proxy for the customer experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He is very critical of his coffee. Whereas I am a typical tea drinker from the UK, so yeah, don't have coffee much. But what was interesting actually was the terminology of ready to go, because obviously that purposely has made us think, well, what does that actually mean in terms of ready to go? So I reckon we'll end up with a lot more people with lots of ideas.
Right. Going to be interpreted differently by everybody, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there is no right or wrong way to do the exercise. More like, let's see what comes up, right?
Absolutely.
I guess can hear all the fire engine in the background.
We are about the time. So 6. Hello, Jubin. Thank you for joining us.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, we just came out of the breakout room. So myself and Ivalo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You escaped.
I'm sorry?
You escaped. You escaped the breakout room.
We did escape, yes. We were done actually. And thank you for hosting this wonderful event. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I think we got everybody back from the breakout rooms. And what I would like to do is stop sharing. And now I would like to hear from, actually to see from a couple of you, what beautiful creation did you put on paper? So who would like to share?
I'm happy to share.
Awesome.
I got it
Paul,
right.
can you describe what is your idea?
Yeah, so I kind of looking at your language, you talked about a coffee mug in your description, and I was thinking, do you mean a hot cup of hot mug of coffee? So this is my machine, which has got a timer on it, and then it's pumping the water through into whatever to make the coffee and putting it into the mug.
Very cool. Very nice. So you put the timer, I guess, for the next morning, and then when you wake up, it does the coffee for you, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Paul,
Awesome.
you will receive a notification from my lawyers for that. It's exactly the same.
Ben and I had a brilliant chat where we were just talking about all sorts of stuff. We drew as a side effect right at the end, but oh, hang on, we should draw something. I saw Ben scribbling away on the camera over there, so yep, that's what he's been doing. We were talking about, well, we didn't quite, it's a bit texty. We don't necessarily know what the need is, what was after. You just got given out, here's some instructions, go do. So we started talking about what would it be asked? Would it be event-based? So like your smartwatch can tell when you wake up, so that could trigger the coffee makings rather than an alarm clock. We could do a bit of that. Some of us may like alcohol, and if we're hungover, maybe hot chocolate might be nicer. So it's not necessarily about coffee. It's about something to get you going in the morning, which is not always caffeine. In the summer, I quite like tea because I'm weird and British. Ben likes cream and sugar. I like mine black. So maybe sort of accoutrements, customizations would be quite helpful to have. And that was it, really. We just kept going on about just what this could be like. Is it about the coffee itself? So it's an expensive mug, or is it just the device that fills coffee up? How would you control the type of thing you want? Do you have to predefine it the night before, or when you wake up, can you go, oh, I fancy coffee, and then magic happens? All of these things were just us chatting, really.
Sorry, if I can go next.
So
we decided. Oh, sorry. Somebody wants to go.
A little different approach. So you saw this very simple drawing, because in at least how I read it in the activity, you did not say anything about actually what is in the coffee mug. It's just a coffee mug. So I just washed my coffee mug, put it next to my bedside table. It'll be ready when I wake up. It didn't say anything in it. So that's how we interpret it.
So we went ahead and didn't draw anything, just so that we could understand what problem the customer is actually trying to solve. What are the requirements, essentially, that we need to cater to? So engage in more of a conversation. So we did have a writing here. I'm pretty sure the page will be blank to hear what the customer is trying to solve.
Awesome. Very cool.
Can I go next? So what I've actually done, that's the Zoom is really doing something messy around the background.
Yeah, it is.
Very smart background. It's Colorado is going to sue for copyright, so it's just protecting you.
Yes, and it's like hiding myself from the picture. All right, let someone else go, and I will just post the picture into the chat.
I'll start mine very quickly, because in the group wasted most of the time doubting the need for such a thing, and I kept asking questions about who validated this need in his product. I didn't get the point of the exercise, but I couldn't help but remember an ex-colleague who hijacked the well, it didn't really hijack. It just added a small script on a device on our coffee machine at work so that he could get his coffee done using a script that he has on his computer, and it was just a push of a button away. And every morning when he arrived, before he dropped his bag and everything, he just pushed, run the script. And in the meantime, 3-4 minutes later, his coffee was ready. And when it was done, he just went to pick it up and went back to his desk to have his breakfast while programming. So I couldn't help but remember that.
That's a nice way to hack into the coffee machine.
Yeah. So what I did is effectively I draw the more of a process. So it's very abstract. So as opposed to the product itself, it's more about like what does what and when. So basically, there's a time factor that does something with coffee, or else that goes into the empty mug, and then empty mug becomes magically hot. So basically, that's. So as opposed to the other guys and ladies, I focused somehow on the process, not on the thing itself.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. So just by looking around, we got a variety of different ideas, and there is no right or wrong answer here. It's just an ideation exercise. Very different ideas. And now I want to share a couple of things. That's why we do this exercise. One is when we give requirements to a development team, an agile team, just in a void, we may end up with a bunch of different things. I gave the same requirement, if you want to call it that way, to everybody, and we got a bunch of different things. And so in order to really understand what we are talking about here, we should really try to spend some time understanding the context, understanding the customer needs, understanding what problem we are trying to solve. And from that, we may even be able to generate new ideas. I think Zach went already into that ideation space, thinking about all possible things. Some of them may actually be specific to the customer needs. Some of them may be not. So we need to figure out what is that we are really trying to solve. So in order to help agile teams in general, product managers in particular, keep the focus, really use the right process, we have developed a couple of frameworks that we are sharing today that could help in keeping that focus. So let me jump into the first one. So let me do a screen share again, and let's see if this works. Is that coming up?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So what I would like for you to do is take another piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and on that blank piece of paper, draw 5 circles, like the ones you see on the screen. Sort of doing like a big circle, and then 5 circles all around that. And then as we go through the circles here, I would like for you to jot down on your piece of paper. So basically build your own framework on your piece of paper. So we start from the top left. And that's where we start in this framework. We start from discover. Basically, we are trying to answer the question that is, what is the problem? So we talk with customers, we do market research, competitor analysis, we do observation of our customers, interviews, all the discovery activities that help us understand what is the problem, what is the opportunity we are trying to solve. Then we move on to the second step, which is define. Of all the learning that we discovered, we want to define and come down really to the essence of the problem. So generate insights there that help us really understand the problem and define it. And then the question is, how might we solve it? How might we solve that problem? So we go into the third phase, that is design. And in design, we spark ideation. So here we start thinking about all the possible things that we can do, all the possible features. Some of them may make sense, some of them may not make sense or be too futuristic. So now we need to, out of all these possible ideas, we also need to decide which one is our solution, which one is the right solution. So we go into Drive. In Drive, we apply different frameworks and methodologies to figure out how to validate hypotheses, how to build rapid prototypes, for example, or build an MVP, so we can go out to our customers with some early ideas and get validation of those ideas before we invest too much or too long into one specific idea. And then we need to validate the outcomes, so we get into deliver. So we deliver that solution, that prototype, that MVP to the customers, and we measure. What do we measure? We measure the outcomes. Are we delivering value to the customers? Are we solving their problem? Are we solving that opportunity? Or maybe not. And this is intended to be a recursive cycle, so iterative cycle. It's not a linear process, it's iterative, because at the end we should ask ourselves the question, what did we learn? And then go back to discovery and repeat the cycle again and again and again to keep building and growing our idea, growing our product. So now let me stop here. I would like to hear from you in thinking about that mug, the coffee mug example that we spoke about before. What opens up for you in this conversation? What, for example, which of these dimensions would you like to start with? Where would you like to focus? What is opening up for you in this conversation? Let me stop the screen share, and I would like to hear from you.
Okay, I can start, Valerio. Let me turn on the camera. What I like of this is let me say, the separation between problem space and solution space. So it's absolutely clear when you have to focus on understanding, and instead when you have to focus on, let me say, building something that fixes the solution. Then that's my first insights for that.
Thank you, Valerio. Very true. Yes, and so much so that as a product manager, product people, we like to solve problems. So as soon as we have a problem, our mind jumps straight into a solution. I think we can build that, or we should do that, and so on. Have you seen that? I mean, have you present to that? Right? I see that all the time. I do that all the time. And it really takes a little bit of a mindset or an effort to stop and say, you know, that idea actually may be a very cool idea, but let me park it. Let me put that on a post-it and save that idea. Let me go back to discover and define. To see if in the problem space, I'm actually understanding the problem really very well before I commit to a specific idea.
This is exactly what I mean. I see very often also, let me say, product owners not talking about the problem, but talking about the solution. Right. A lot of stories are not about problem, but again, are about solutions.
And so the work becomes just generating output rather than generating outcomes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously also the feedback loop is, let me say, is measuring, let me say, the wrong stuff, because they are measuring, for example, I don't know, the number of users, but not, for example, how long it will take for a user to complete a journey. That maybe it's more interesting from the user perspective, but just examples.
Great, yeah, thank you. Okay, let me hear, is anybody else want to share any thoughts on this? Anything that came up for you? Or if you've seen that in reality?
So it's interesting to see the terminology about the problem space and solution space. I'm a big proponent of using domain-driven design in building the architectures for the system. And there is a constant kind of a duality in the approach, that how you see the domain and then actually build a solution around it. The terminology that is used in DDD is pretty much exactly the same that what we're talking about, which makes me hopeful that we can basically align very well with the product management and product development, as well as with the software architecture, translated into the actual team structures. So just an observation.
So BDD being behavior-driven development.
No, it's not BDD per se. It's a domain-driven design, DDD.
DDD, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So great. Let me go back to sharing the screen. And here we go. And this is a great segue into our next framework. And let me bring up the next slide. And Zeina is gonna cover this for us.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Valerio. So a lot of you earlier in the coffee mug exercise actually touched upon this while you were sharing. If the coffee mug exercise, and Valerio does this, he likes to play trick questions on everyone, but we jumped right into the solution space, right? We looked at a request and we started solutioning right away. And some of you felt uncomfortable doing that, like, who am I solving for? What is the problem here? What value are they going to get from like that? What value are they trying to achieve, with this request? And started to come up with some questions around the actual driver or the problem that you were trying to solve. So before I get into zones of value, maybe think back to the coffee mug example and what you were talking about, and try to brainstorm with a partner. We'll go into the breakout rooms. What value people were looking for when they're making that request? What could be behind that request? So go into the breakout rooms, have a quick discussion about what value could be driving that request, and we'll come back and regroup.
Awesome. Opening the breakout rooms now.
4 minutes.
I wonder if I keep sharing the screen, I wonder if when they go in the breakout room, what they see. Do they see me sharing the screen, or do they see each other? That's why I stopped.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Should we broadcast the activity, or can we do that?
Valerio, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, no one was talking in the room, so I just decided that it doesn't make sense to stay there. Everyone was with the camera off and not talking and so on, so I checked quickly and then.
Yeah, we've had some of those issues, but we can be your group here. And any ideas on what you think, what values were driving that request for the coffee mug?
Well, yeah, I can imagine it's the easiness. Also, it's waking up faster. It can be also just a feeling of waking up in a smooth way. Like I wake up and it's already, I feel the smell of coffee and it makes me feel good, makes me feel at home, at ease.
Yeah, no, all of those, right? Like convenience,
and
comfort.
at home, and yeah, exactly, and comfort, and yeah, and also saving time, because if I wake up and I want to do a coffee, it will take me like 10 minutes or something, and then now I wake up and the coffee is ready, it's hot, it's smelling good, and I just wake up and start my day.
But even just, you just made me think, just waking up to the smell of coffee, that would be cool. Right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually, you're right. There's like sensory appeal across the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess that's what I would do most is I would talk with these guys and I would ask an open question like, okay, what do you do in your morning when you wake up? How is your day starting? And then I would just listen and then make some conclusions instead of trying to make predictions, instead of thinking what they think.
Yep. So the best way to understand value is what I'm hearing you say is to have a deep understanding of the customer, the potential user, right? The people who are, yeah.
Understanding the outcome that they want to achieve.
I guess your phone is ringing. Yeah.
Sorry, there was someone was calling me. Yeah, so basically understand the customer, understand the need, understand the outcome that we want to achieve, the jobs to be done, as they say it, and then generate many ideas how we can, what possible ways we can imagine to satisfy that need.
Yeah. Great. Welcome back, everyone. Anyone want to share what was discussed in the breakout room? Anything insightful?
I'm happy to share. Marco and I discussed the need to actually have real motivation to get out of bed in the morning, and that could be a reason behind wanting to feel more relaxed and prepared for their day, and just need that little edge to help them speed up the getting ready for whatever it is they're facing that day.
I like it. Motivation. I think that's the first time I've heard that. Anyone else?
Yeah, Candice and I had a similar kind of chat. Unfortunately for us, Candice doesn't drink tea or coffee, so we were using me as the lab rat. But yes, I definitely echo the motivation things. I like the sensory experiences of the coffee. It's not just hot brown liquor. Sorry, Candice, you're going to hear this twice now. But I like the sound that my coffee machine makes in the morning, because I described the gurgling things. That for me tells me that my coffee's ready. I don't need to get out of bed until I start hearing that gurgling. It's loud. I like the smell that the machine spits out, so I get that. It's not really about the caffeine, it's about all the other things. And motivation, and just kind of a nice way to start a day, is for me the biggest reason why because I have a coffee machine with a timer on it, so it is part of my alarm clock. So this was kind of tailor-made for me in that sense.
Yeah.
I think what we uncovered talking was the emotional side of it, in terms of the happiness, the enjoyment of the moment, the idea that something's being done for you without you having to do it. So it was interesting how much Noi brought out that side of, it's that sort of emotional value that you get from the product.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Thinking about sort of all these underlying maybe needs, emotional elements, potential motivator, sensory experience, right? You probably design a very different product if you're focused on, those areas of the experience, or, trying to understand sort of what is behind the customer's request from a human perspective. So. Yeah, I love that. Cool. So our next topic is we're going to get into something called the Zones of Value framework. And this framework comes to life after we've done and spent a lot of time in the problem space and done a lot of discovery. So when you would use a Zones of Value framework is at the intersection. So I call it the bridge between the problem space and the solution space. And Valerio, do you want to share? Do you want me to bring up the...
Okay.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
It's coming. Yep.
Yep. So the next slide. So on your framework of the 5 Ds, just put a little star on design. and try to envision, sort of that bridge between problem space and solution space. So a lot of times we may not be fully ready to ideate or, get really locked into what a solution looks like, right? So we want to stay anchored in what we've uncovered in discovery in terms of what is valuable to our customers, where the human need is, what are some things that we're trying to deliver, what are the most critical value elements relating to the customer in a really human-centric way, right? So this framework allows us to sort of think within those realms and start to architect a potential solution using values without necessarily, diving into real concrete solutioning, as we would say. Next. So Zones of Value is essentially an experience framework for architecting your product in a human-centric way. Simple definition, and it is ultimately derived from a really deep understanding of people and what they value. So you take those two things and you start to kind of pull together various elements that can make that can influence what your product will look like in future, and potentially inform your product strategy as you're architecting it. Next slide. So here's an example. This is sort of a very basic Zones of Value, kind of a go-to if you just want to play around with the framework and flex those muscles a little bit. And is there a question? No. Yeah. So basically, at the center of every product, right, you have your core experience. And this is sort of that, that core value hypothesis, right? What are you really trying to deliver on for the client, or not client in this case in consulting, but for your customer, right? And then around that are various zones of value that are important and you've uncovered throughout the thing. So something like an empower zone, right, is an area or a element of your product that can come to life that could really empower your user, in the case of the coffee mug, to start their day, right? Or maybe there's a motivational message that comes with the so you start to get some future ideas from things in the empower zone. So to get a little bit more granular, we devised an example using Tesla for their potential zones of value. So if you think about Tesla, right, if we were to guess, what their zones of value is using the basic framework, it may look something like this. Like their, personal zone may be, how can we make our drivers feel unique and special, right? It could just be a question. It could be as much as like, hey, we have, Tesla swag actually fits into this zone, right? Because they can personalize it, they can design their own product, or they can design certain things within their car that makes them feel like it's theirs and that they're special in some way. Their explore zone could be, what they discover on the website, how they find products, how they find what they want to buy, right? There's the discovery element, and you can, definitely brainstorm around explore in so many ways, right? And all the way down to their stores. So there's the website, but there's actually the physical store, and there are elements of explore zone throughout the store as well, right? Welcome zone, right? Early on, how do we get people who, once they've bought in, think onboarding, maybe some interesting AI in the car that welcomes them for their first ride, and things like that. And then the connect zone, most products have some version of this. I've seen it called in the know sometimes, right? Notifications, messages, support, staying connected, maybe through a community of some sort, and things like that. So that's, envisioning what the zones of value for Tesla could potentially look like. I'm going to pause there. Any reactions, thoughts, comments?
I have one question.
I like the structure because if nothing else, it can give you a way of talking to your customers about various subparts of the thing as a whole. Because sometimes it's a bit difficult to make sense of the swell of stuff that you can get from them. So I quite like this as that kind of way of focusing or narrowing down a subject for a particular chapter.
Yeah, I love that actually. And you bring up something with clients all the time. And sometimes, we work in environments where, people maybe not used to working in Agile, or you have to present to stakeholders, in a very different sort of environment than your traditional product development team or product driven environment. So presenting information and giving a framework like this to stakeholders is such a great way to organize ideas and organize your thoughts. So 100%. We want to take 2 minutes and maybe let's choose a zone. So I like the it's personal zone because it's all about making our clients feel special in this case. And maybe brainstorm on your own a couple of ideas of, how Tesla, in this case, can make their owners feel unique and special, and come up with some, either potential features or other questions that could fit into that zone. So 2 minutes. All right. Anyone want to share some ideas they came up with for personal zone?
Yeah, so, just a few. Being able to personalize the car before you get it. Being able to personalize the controls of the car. So, fine tune the feel of all the controls. Given that Tesla's create a lot of data, I think something about how the data is used, your access to the data, potentially using that to create like a performance rewards sort of scheme. So, safe drivers get better swag, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Quite like that. So building off Richard's thing, it was what I was thinking of. Because if you assume that Tesla is not really a premium car company, that's not how they see themselves. They're a tech company that disrupt. They want to change how cars operate. So they're possibly selling to geeks. And if they're selling to geeks, then give them an API. Let them do stuff with their data. Let them play around with it. Let them visualize their trips on things by just giving them access to their data. I think if they give their customers their data, maybe a way to, excuse me, do silly little things like maybe program their car to do donuts in a car park, I don't know, something. Then that is not useful, but it is a massive amount of, this is unique and personal. So I think something to do with just selling to geeks, give them their data, give them APIs to play around with their car within limits. I think they'll do, because I nearly bought one. And the reason I didn't buy one is because I like the sound of big engines. And before I have to buy an electric car, I really needed to have another midlife crisis. But that might have swung it for me. Just being able to just geek out on a car would have been quite good fun.
Yeah, that's interesting because that could be just another zone that's off of this personal zone, right? Like developer or self design, something like that. That's I like that a lot actually.
And Zeina, in this one, it's personal zone. I come up with the idea of making a survey because as it is the personal zone, each person will have its own personal thing that we like in the car. As such, and Richie said, they are both, I think they both like the idea, but each of bring out this about development and getting data, and Rich almost the same, but quite a difference. So would that be okay to make a survey there in that phase to customer?
Yeah, I mean, your entire feedback loop could definitely fit in there, like you know, customer feedback of some sort, or you know, some sort of community element there. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, these are not stuck in stone by any way. They are you know, derived from all the research that you've already done. So your zones of value could look totally different. These are sort of the basic ones we kind of see over and over with most products or most store, you know, digital physical products as well. But they, you know, they could be whatever it is that you derive from your research. With that, we're going to do another activity. Valerio, the next screen. So we came up with a challenge as Netflix. So imagine you're the product innovation team working at Netflix. They want to leverage their library of videos to support learning for students. So the question here is, how might we, as Netflix, leverage our library of videos to support learning for students in schools? The outcome that they're trying to drive is they wanted to democratize and expand horizons to create more diversity of knowledge for all their students. So this is a design challenge that, you know, your product innovation team has been tasked with. And the idea is to, you know, get together with your group and ideate on what the zones of value will look like for a project like this. Now, we know you don't have the research, so you can get a little creative on what you think, you know, is valuable to people, and what are some of those critical drivers. And
okay. How much do we have, Zeina?
10 minutes for this one.
Okay, and we have put a link to the zones of value framework in the chat. So if you want to have an example of to know which circles you may want to draw on your piece of paper and to focus on, and maybe they just want to select just a few, start from a few of these circles, not the whole thing.
Yeah, you can pick the ones you want to do.
Okay, opening the breakout rooms now.
Did I skip any activities? I feel like I went through that really quick.
It was good. It was good. I mentioned drawing so that when they come back, they can share if they have something to share.
Yeah, good point. Should we put this in the chat? Or you did already?
Should we stop the screen share? Let me stop the screen share.
I can do it.
We have Vinod with us. Vinod, can you hear me? Yeah, we are all at home and interruptions happen all the time. Don't worry about that.
Are you timing?
Good point. No, I forgot. It's about probably 3 minutes already.
Yeah, we can go at 2:09.
Okay.
Or even maybe 2:10 because. So a couple of people who were on their own. So I went to those rooms.
I also jumped around. They're really getting it. They're doing a lot of work on that. Yeah, it's interesting to see how it's helping the conversation.
Yeah, this is a fun topic to ideate around.
Let's do a time check. 1 minute left, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, we'll be good on time because we only have 20 minutes left. So, well, 10 minutes to debrief, 10 minutes to wrap up. So, yeah.
Is it earlier than we had planned?
No, I was mistaken. We're on time.
Cool. Okay, 09. So let me close the rooms.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Before we get into sharing the actual zones of value content, I'm curious what you all based the zones or the ideas on. Did you use your own experience? Did you, try to think about, maybe other people, or where did you get kind of the source of the design inspiration from?
I think we had a mix. So this is Candice and Melinda. We had a mix of the two, some past experience and also some where we've seen stuff in other solutions that you could pull together.
And I would say lived experience, even though I didn't mention it. Homeschooling was a driver for some of the things that we were coming up with.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's hard to do this when you don't have a lot of research you can true back to, right? Where you don't have everything in front of you. So, yeah. Very cool. All right. So who wants to share, one of the zones and what they came up with?
I'm happy to start. Just want to go with one of them, one zone. I think the most fun one from the Candice and Melinda that we came up with, for me anyway, was the connect zone. So being able to connect with your classmates within that zone, and more importantly, see where your classmates are. So if they're on some sort of learning path, you'll see where they are on that, which leads to some sort of gamification. And on the back of that, possibly motivates you if you see your classmates doing better than you are through the process. That was all right. The idea in that space.
Very cool. Anyone else?
I think Renat, Ben and I, I'll fill it. We were talking from the perspective of the school as a content creator, because they've got a curriculum, they kind of share the stuff. A bunch of things came out. We didn't explicitly write anything down. There was stuff around in Explore, which I think was in there, which is about, you being able to find alternatives to the various modules, because lots of schools will have lots of different teaching styles. Maybe some people connect better with some styles over another. Same content, just different styles. So there might be a way of leveraging the recommendations engine within things like Netflix. Now, people like you also like this sort of stuff. So maybe you can get better quality learning outcomes by just being able to pick from a broader range of teaching styles. There was some stuff around also trying to work out whether or not the content was relevant or working, because the usage statistics that you already get out of Netflix, you could use. So if students consistently dropped out of a particular module, that's some feedback for the provider that actually whatever reason, the students aren't sticking with it, work on it, do something with that. But here's some data for you. So yeah, we focus mainly from the school's angle, the kind of content provider, the ones who want this curriculum. We got all kinds of stuck on how do you tell if actually learning outcomes are being achieved? Or do they know stuff? Do they know more things? Did not go anywhere near that kind of worms.
Yeah, because in case of the schools I'm teaching, the class, the feedback is going beyond the ratings and the binge watching, the amount of binge watching. So as in the case of the Netflix, because really you need to capture the feedback in terms of like what are the outcomes, what is the value expressed in the test scores or something like that. Also, we kind of alluded between the core experience for the Netflix. Could be as well just a platform that provides the content and recommendation for that is surfaced through the existing school or school course management systems, because there are plenty of them here in the US that are used, and people and teachers are really familiar with them. So instead of introducing the new kid on the block from the Netflix side, it could be as well just provide the APIs and the platform to surface the engine in the best possible way to match the curriculum that the school designed by itself.
Yeah, right, because you're defining the core experience as getting access, to the content. So the interface at that point, it doesn't matter where they're channeling it through, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, because today the YouTube videos are just used like across the board, but it's up to the teacher to find out the content. Netflix could basically just elevate and do a really walk a long mile to provide the recommendations.
Julie and I, we also had similar discussions, and in the end, we quickly catched up on the framework itself. So I posed the question, well, are these all the zones? So aren't there other things to be considered? So I'm coming from the service design area, so customer journeys or things like that. Then I thought, well, what do you do if you finish as a student? So where is the exit zone or the switching zone? Where is this experience? So what is your point on that?
Yeah, so these are just examples of a very basic structure. Zones of value look very different for every client. So you can have, 20, you can have 3, and they could be very different. For another client I worked at, we used this to help define a unified experience framework across all of their various design team. So this is a platform that is a benefits engine. So I'll give you an example. So they, think about your 401k HSA. So you log in. So they had, 30,000 employees. They were a company that was working across hundreds of downstream apps, and they wanted some sort of unifying framework for their employees, which I think they served, close to 25 million, something like that, employees that were using the system, to have a consistent experience. So with their zones of value, they looked really different. We had an identity zone, right, that was based in know me, remember me, right? Employees didn't want to log into 500 different places, right? A focus zone. And we had 2 focus zones, one from the employer's perspective, right? What do I want my employees to know? And then one from the employee perspective, what do I need to know now? Right. And then there were like content management features within that focus zone on the employer side that fit there. There were some other ones, explore, how to learn about your benefits and, discover more and things like that. Connect, notifications, messages, emails, videos from the CEO. And again, it was twofold. It was from the employer perspective and the end user. So basically we teach these are sort of basic just to like flex the muscle and get some practice with them. But ultimately your zones of value are going to come from all the problem space work and the research that you do, because they're derived from that, right? And you can add more in the future. But in the case with this company, they used it across the board to kind of define a unified experience framework that all of the different teams can true back to. So when they build features, they those features mapped to the zones of value. And, you know, if you think about it, you can probably even organize teams around those zones of value as well. So, so yeah, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's more, you know, more advanced. You can do a lot more with it.
Cool, thank you.
All right, I think we are at time. Valerio, back to you. Thank you.
To conclude this webinar, we would like to share with you the Certified Product Innovation Professional, which is a training program in product management and innovation, where we use these frameworks and others on a 6-week schedule to go from discovery to delivery of a product idea that the participants bring to the course. And if you'd like to learn more or apply for the next program, there is a link there. You can take a screenshot, or we can share that in the chat. And anyway, we are going to share the whole PowerPoint with this group, so we can also do that later. Let me stop the share here, and we can open up for Q&A, chat, discussion, and Corrado can guide us on that as well.
Yeah, I was unmuting myself. Okay. Yeah, I have a question actually. Okay, I know that just to break the ice. But the zone of values that you have mapped, these 7 zones, something like that, are always the same, because we touched it. I mean, you told that every customer can have different zones, correct?
Every product has different zones of value.
Yeah, because the products are different. And so what is the process to identify the different zones?
Yeah, so in CPIP, we spend a lot of time in the problem space. So various discovery, you know, research with primary research with users directly through interviews. Insight mining, which is a activity that we do to take the research that we've done and derive, you know, insights, things that are interesting that will lead to better ideation in the future, right? So those, you know, those critical questions that we could have from the research, or things, it's a way to synthesize what we learned from the research. So to put it short, it's all the discovery activities are what's feeding the zones of value. So including business value, right? So stakeholder activity, right? You know, ultimately user human value is also business value, but we do take that into account sometimes, because on some products, like the benefits one, you know, identity was a big one, and it was it was twofold, right? So we had to create a whole SSO system, and, you know, but, you know, that was a very critical value element for the group. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions?
I actually have a question for you. What did you get by applying this framework? Did it open up a different type of conversation? What did you discover by using this?
I can go. I think, and that's to the point that Zach, you were making earlier, that it's a good visual to have the conversation around. So you can, you know, gather a number of people into, I wish to say one Zoom room, and you can speak to them about the ideas, and you can generate them together and have them in one place, visible.
Yeah. And adding to that is like, whenever, for example, we were designing, we were thinking of value to the customer. And it was just value to the customer, just that. In here is like an open up into different places, and then you have value in each of the other areas. So it's like you can come up with more ideas that brings value. That was mine.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you all. if there are no other questions, thank you for the participation today. It was a pleasure talking with you about the 5 dimensions of product innovation and the zones of value framework. I'll be happy to stay in touch, so please connect with me and Zeina. We'll be happy to stay in touch. If you have any other question coming up in the next days or so, please reach out.
Yeah, thank
Great
you.
to meet you all. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Zeina. Please, Zeina, go ahead.
I know. Just thank you, everyone. It was great to meet everyone and see the participation. You know, a lot of our workshops are highly interactive, so we appreciate it when people are invested. So thank you.
Yeah, I also personally appreciate workshop more than talk. Valerio knows that. So thank you for make this really participant and to make it this really active. And there are some learning for me too, something to think. So thank you for sharing this. And thank you all of you for joining this session. And I think that we have, I know that it could be tricky, but there is some value in this session. Probably we have to identify with zone, but actually there is some value. However, thank you, Zeina and Valerio, for sharing this again. We will provide the link for the PowerPoint and also for the video recording, on the Meetup page. Feel free to join the Meetup channel so you will be notified when the video will be available.
Great, thank you.
Okay, see
Thank
you
you all.
next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. Appreciate
Thanks very
it.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Again, thank you for sharing. Nice. I
Thanks.
love it.
Bye.